On Friday, November 15th, Netflix and Most Valuable Promotions bring you the highly anticipated heavyweight boxing mega event of the year. Jake El Gallo Paul will go toe-to-toe in the ring against Iron Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet. Don't miss this epic showdown from AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Watch Paul versus Tyson, now streaming only on Netflix.
Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a one-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
The holiday season officially starts when you get that first card in the mail. Shutterfly makes it easy to add more meaning to the everyday with hundreds of holiday card designs that can be personalized in seconds with your favorite photos from this year. Select your greeting, customize the color, and even add little extras like personalized foil to make a holiday card that really shines. Enjoy 40% off with code SMILE40 at Shutterfly.com and send something meaningful this year. See site for more details.
Hello and welcome to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. I'm Steven Toplis. It's Friday the 15th of November and we're back with your Friday 5. Over the next half hour we'll take a look at the stories that have been making the headlines at the City Ground in the last 7 days. I'm here with Tom Newton. Welcome again, Tom.
Hi, you alright?
Yeah, all good. And
Good.
now let's join Jamie Martin at the 1865 news desk for the top 5 Forest stories of the week.
Hi, this is Jamie Martin. I'm back here with this week's top 5 Forest stories from the 1865 news desk. Start of the week in the headline, Nottingham Forest players have received their international call-ups. It's been a busy week for Nottingham Forest. After a hard defeat to Newcastle, the players are up and ready for yet another international break, with several called up by their respective national teams. Murillo received his first ever Seleção call-up for his home nation Brazil, with Morgan Gibbs-White also returning to Lee Carsley's England squad for the Irishman's final England camp before the arrival of new manager Thomas Tuchel. Nikola Milenkovic, Nico Williams, Matt Sels, Chris Wood, Zach Abbott and Eric da Silva Moreira have also been called up for international duties, with Abbott and Moreira getting time with their national team youth setups. A fantastic moment for the Reds as they send around 10 players off on international duties, a huge achievement in recent times. Second in the news, much-loved duo could be the first to leave the City Ground. New reports have emerged that Willie Bolly and Harry Toffolo may be the first to depart the City Ground ahead of next summer. Transfer news is slowly creeping back in with just over a month before the winter window opens, with Nottingham Forest news reporting that the club could look to cash in on soon-to-be out-of-contract Willie Bolly and Harry Toffolo. Both cost the club around £5 million combined, and with both of their contracts expiring on June 30th, 2025, Forest could seek to gain some transfer funds back on their initial investments. The third piece of news this week, Nottingham Forest suffer humbling defeat at the hands of Newcastle. After a strong start to the season, Forest suffered a loss at their home, the City Ground, this weekend at the hands of a very strong Newcastle side, for which looked like the side they were just a matter of 18 months ago. While Forest opened the scoring with a superb Murillo header from an elegant Elanga free kick inside the first half, it wasn't enough as the Magpies ran right in the second half, scoring 3 to secure a huge 3 points. Newcastle controlled the midfield, somewhat playing Forest at their own game and limiting Forest's options. The Reds tactically outclassed. A tough result for Forest fans to take, but they can find solace in it being the club's second defeat in the league this season, remaining unbeaten away from home and still within the top 10 in the league table. Now, in other transfer news, Sunderland midfielder is wanted by Forest, reports say. Nottingham Forest are amongst many clubs in the top flight pursuing talented Sunderland youngster Chris Rigg. It's been a successful couple of years for Sunderland's youth, with Jack Clark, a player sold for around £20 million to Ipswich in the summer, and now Chris Rigg could be providing another cash injection for them. Forest are looking to sign the midfielder, reports Alan Nixon, alongside Tommy Watson, a young winger. Forest now utilising a multi-club model. I could see Chris Rigg getting some game time at Forest off the bench, with Watson joining another side on loan, perhaps Olympiacos or Rio Ave, to further his development. But that is not set in stone, and as this deal at the moment stands, it is just interest, so nothing more. But Should it come to fruition, Forest have got a variety of options available to both the players to seek and help their development. So the final piece of news this week, and a really nice one to end on actually, a wonderful thing happened at half-time this last weekend at the City Ground, as the stadium hosted the incredible Our Dementia Choir, who sang live on the pitch to thousands of awe-inspired fans. Based in Nottingham, Our Dementia Choir, as it is called and run by acclaimed local actress Vicky McClure, is a charity established to enrich the lives of those suffering with dementia, consisting of meetups to sing and socialise within a choir. The choir proves that just because these people have such a debilitating condition as dementia, that anything can be achieved through the powerful means of music in a truly, really wonderful event. A wonderful initiative that hopefully will keep going for as long as possible and keep providing such amazing support to those suffering with dementia currently. So that is the latest from the 1865 News Desk. I'm Jamie Martin. Be sure to catch up with me on Twitter, or X as it is now known, via @I'mJamieMartin. Updates on Nottingham Forest related news throughout the week. I'm currently moving house at the moment, so there will be a delay. I won't be here next week, but you'll be in very capable hands. So I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. But until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Thanks, Jamie, and best of luck with the house move. Now to take a look at those stories in more detail, Tom is here with me, and we start with Forest's international call-ups. There's 10 in total for the latest round of international fixtures, and among the headlines is Murillo getting his first ever call-up to the Brazil senior squad. Before we go into the other call-ups, let's touch on Murillo, because it's a richly deserved call-up for the Seleção, the famous Brazil national team, and a Forest player is in there, Tom. It's quite an achievement.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. I'm surprised he's not been called up sooner, really, because of obviously the progress he's made since he joined us from Corinthians last year. And yeah, he's just gone from strength to strength, hasn't he? And I think this season he's been very good, but bear with me on this one, I don't think he's been as good as last season. The reason being, he can just concentrate on his own game rather than covering somebody. Like last year, he had so many defensive partners like Worrell, Bolly, Niakate, etc., etc. But this year, him and Milenkovic have just been absolutely solid, consistent, and he can just concentrate on his own game because he knows next to him he's got another astute international player next to him. And yeah, they've just complemented each other really well, haven't they? And hence why we're fifth in the league. Defensively, we've been pretty sound, haven't we? So yeah, consistently this season we've been brilliant, haven't we?
Also in the international call-ups are Morgan Gibbs-White, who has received a third call-up to the England squad for the Nations League matches against Greece and the Republic of Ireland. Lee Carsley's final games in charge before Thomas Tuchel takes over the Three Lions on a permanent basis. Nikola Milenkovic, who you've mentioned, Tom, he's in the Serbia squad. Matt Sells and Nico Williams are in the Belgium and Wales squads, respectively. Ramon Sosa has been called up for the Paraguay squad for their World Cup qualifiers against Argentina and Bolivia. Chris Wood, also in World Cup action with New Zealand. Ola Aina has been called up for Nigeria. And then Zach Abbott, he's received another England under-19s call-up for the games against Lithuania, Bulgaria and Belgium. And Eric da Silva Moreira has been called up for Germany's under-19s for their games against Andorra, Cyprus and Hungary. So 10 players in total called up for their respective nations. And it's a real sign of progress for Forest that so many players are getting international honours now. It's great to see.
Yeah, it just shows the progress what the club's made in the last few years. And in the past, I know we've had internationals, but we're having international players playing for really established nations, i.e. Brazil, England, etc. So yeah, it just goes how well we've been doing on the field and off the field by being a Premier League side, and we're going to get more recognition. And it just shows that we're going in the right direction. And it also shows in the future, players, you don't necessarily have to be at a top 6 club to get international recognition. And Morgan Gibbs-White's had that in the last couple of months, and Murillo's just received his first call up. So yeah, it just goes to show as a club we're progressing in the right direction. Our
next story then involves transfer news. We're 6 weeks away from the winter transfer window opening, and already we're starting to hear rumours and stories coming through. This one involves Forest defensive duo Willy Bolly and Harry Toffolo. It's been reported that both of them could be among the first players to leave the club before next summer. Both of them are out of contract at the end of June 2025, and it's thought that Forest would like to cash in on the pair before then. I think in terms of their play time and their involvement in the squad this season, Tom, I wouldn't be too surprised if they moved on Bolly and Toffolo in January and tried to get regular football elsewhere, because they're not really getting much of a look in this season.
No, I mean, with Alex Moreno coming in at left back, and obviously Nico Williams can play there, and you've got Olaina who can play there, then Toffolo's obviously slipped down the pecking order. Then with Bolly, you've got obviously Milenkovic, Murillo, Omar Bamadeli in front of him. I know Omar Bamadeli has not been getting in the squad in recent weeks, but that just shows you we've got enough cover in that position. And also you've got to David Olmo, who's at Olympiacos. He's due to come in the summer once his loan move over in Greece is completed. So yeah, we've got enough cover. So Bolly and Harry Toffolo, they've been brilliant servants, haven't they, for the club, and they've never let us down in some aspects. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of that. It's just getting those players like more regular playtime, because obviously nobody wants to be sat on the bench doing nothing. So yeah, it's just part and parcel of game, isn't it? You players go, players come in. It's just one of those things. But yeah, they've both been great servants for the club.
It's probably a sign as well of the progress that Forest have made this season, where players with, certainly in Willy Bolly's case, that Premier League experience, it was so vital to Forest while we were trying to establish ourselves in the top flight. And Harry Toffolo came in from Huddersfield after we got promoted in that joint deal with Lewis O'Brien, and whenever he played, he never let anyone down. But I think as well, with the way that Forest are moving up the table and where they're looking to go this season and beyond, I think players like Bolly and Toffolo have probably come to the end of their time at the club, and it's the right move now to see if we can get some money in for them and allow them to go somewhere else.
Yeah, it's just that natural reaction, especially in the first season. You think, oh, if we do go down, we've got like a ready-made left back in Harry Toffolo, who was pretty decent at Huddersfield, but obviously stayed up the first season, stayed up the second season, and now we want to get away from that dreaded drop zone, don't we? And obviously have a more comfortable season. So yeah, I just think it's the way the club's going, and they want to like progress and get better players in and have aspirations playing in Europe in the next few years or whatever. Yeah, I just think it's one of those where it's just part and parcel of the game. Players move on and you progress as a football club, don't you? And sometimes players just don't fit in, whatever. So yeah, it's just they've been decent servants, but life moves on.
And if and when they do move on, I think they'll leave with the best wishes of all Forest fans, because they've been really good servants to the club over the last 2 or 3 seasons. So next story is reflecting on Forest's defeat at home to Newcastle on Sunday. The Reds beaten 3-1 at the City Ground by Eddie Howe's Magpies on a day when Forest were largely outthought and outclassed by a very good Newcastle side. Murillo had put Forest ahead in the first half, nodding in a free kick, but Newcastle came back to win, scored 3 goals, and there was really no complaints looking back, Tom. Even in the heat of the moment, I think most of us accepted that Forest had just been beaten on the day by the better side, and maybe it was a bit of a reality check. What do you think?
Yeah, I've gone on record of that. I think, well, I'd say 3/4 of the side just didn't have a good game, did they? They had too many players having an off day, and when that happens in the Premier League, you've got no chance of winning a football match. And even before we scored, I thought Newcastle were the better side without obviously scoring. Then obviously we got that goal, but I think after half time they came out as the stronger side and they played it as their own game. And to be honest, Nick Pope hasn't had a lot to do really. So it's just one of those. I'm not going to get too disheartened about it, because at the end of the day, you have to hold your hands up and we got beaten by the better side. In some ways, it's not like 2 years ago or whatever where we used to put the red carpet out for teams. It's just bad day all around. But we lost 3-1, and Nuno will learn from it. The players will learn from it, and probably in some case, it is a reality check, because at the end of the day, if you look at Newcastle side, they've got Bruno Guimaraes, they've got Alexander Isak, and these are players over like 50 million quid in and worth to Newcastle. So yeah, it's just like we've had a fantastic season so far. I don't think anybody thought by the second international break would be sitting in fifth position. So yeah, learn from it, and which will, and the players will, and yeah, we'll just go on to the next game, which I know it's not going to be easy away at Arsenal next week, but yeah, you just have to get on with it and crack on, really. So yeah, I'm not too disheartened by the result. I mean, we all want to win football matches, but sometimes you just have to hold your hands up, don't you, and say we weren't good enough on the day.
And I think the international break will help. It will just give a couple of weeks for everything to reset, and Nuno and his team to analyse what happened against Newcastle, and for Forest to come back strong when they face Arsenal away, because away from home this season, we've generally performed better than we have at the City ground. So Arsenal is probably as tough a game as you're going to get away from home. We know how good they are, but I think with the way Forest have been on the road this season, I'd fancy them to get something.
Yeah, and they've had their struggles in recent weeks, haven't they, with their discipline record and not winning football matches where on paper they should have done, and all of that. But we went to Liverpool a few months ago and beat them 1-0, and look at the season, what they're having. So yeah, we're more than capable. And like I said before, I don't fear anybody in this league. But at the end of the day, if Forest are competitive and give teams a good game, I think that's all what we want. And if we're lucky enough, we'll come out with a win. But yeah, we're doing all right this season, and I've got no worries about relegation, because we've shown enough this season that we can mix it with the best sides, and we have got a very good squad, and the depth as well, like blossomed nicely with like the wingers on the bench with Sousa and Silva, and Awoniyi's on the bench, etc. So yeah, we're going in the right direction. So yeah, this season is going better than expected for some of us.
Yeah, disappointing defeat last time around, but still plenty to feel positive about as a Forest fan. We're going to take a short break. Tom and I will be back with you in a few minutes' time, right after this.
Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast.
Welcome back to this week's Friday 5. It's Stephen here, and I've got Tom with me as we reflect on the top stories from the City ground over the past 7 days. And our next story involves more transfer news, and this is that Forest are reportedly one of the clubs interested in Sunderland midfielder Chris Rigg. The Reds are believed to be pursuing a deal for both Rigg and his teammate Tommy Watson, who's also a very promising player. Rigg is 17 years old. He's also attracted interest from the likes of Chelsea and Real Madrid. So he's clearly got a pedigree that's catching the eye of the big clubs. But it looks like Tom Forest could be ready to make a move and offer him the opportunity to step up into the Premier League. What do you think of this potential transfer and Forest being linked with Chris Rigg?
Well, there's two aspects of it, isn't there? There's like, do Sunderland really need to sell? And they're flying high in the Championship at the moment. I think the top at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah.
As we record this. Then depends what Chris Rigg wants to do, because if he wants, I don't know if he's from Sunderland, but if he is, he wants to probably get promoted with his hometown club, etc. So yeah, there's got to be a lot of factors to make this transfer happen. But when I've seen the odd bit of Championship football, I don't watch a lot these days, because you get spoiled when you're in the Premier League, don't you? And all of that. And you don't really I don't want to come across as like as a snobby football fan, but I don't watch much below the Premier League. So, but when I've actually seen bits of Sunderland, Chris Rigg's the one who's scoring and performing really well for Sunderland. So we just have to wait and see. I think we're going to see a lot of rumours from now until the end of January, and you don't know if it's like concrete rumours or just paper talk. You just don't know, do you? So unless you see them on the club social media and the website holding up a shirt, then you're going to hear a lot of rumours from now until the end of January.
Rigg's an attacking midfielder. He plays either through the centre or down the right, and he's quite a tricky, creative player. And at the age of 17, he's obviously got many more years ahead of him as a player. He's just getting started in his career, and he's catching the eye this season with Sunderland top of the Championship, and he's played a big role in getting them there. He does feel like the kind of profile of player that Forest would be looking to sign, that young up-and-coming talent with plenty of room to develop. He's come through at the Stadium of Light from their under-18s to their under-21s, and now he's in the first team despite just being 17. He's also played for England at youth level. It's reported that he could cost Forest up to £25 million. Do you think that kind of transfer, if Forest were to go for it, Tom, would be a bit of a gamble? Or do you think it's a price worth paying for somebody who's so young and highly rated?
It's a bit of both, really, because with the age he's at 17, to spend 25 million on a 17-year-old is a big risk. But having said that, it's not my money. So if Forest and the recruitment team and the powers that be think 25 million is the fee to pay to get Chris Rigg from the Stadium of Light, then so be it, kind of thing. And so if they want to pay 25 million, it's up to them. It's like you might have opinions where it's like it's too much or too less, but at the end of the day, our opinion doesn't really account because it's not our money. So yeah, just have to wait and see what happens. And if it's 25 million to part with getting Chris Wood to the City ground, then that might be the case, but just have to wait and see.
And then Tommy Watson, who is also a Sunderland Academy graduate, he came through the ranks. So he's a year older than Rigg. He's 18 years old. He's a winger who Forest had previously been linked with during Steve Cooper's time in charge. So it looks like he's been on Forest's radar for a little while. Rangers in Scotland were also looking at him and reportedly interested. And whether Forest do make a double swoop for Rigg and for Watson remains to be seen. But much like Rigg, he fits that bracket of player of young up and coming. I mean, what I like about this link, Tom, is that Forest are able now as a Premier League club to dip into the Championship and be an attractive offer to young Championship players, because when we were in that league ourselves not all that long ago, you used to see Premier League clubs coming in and picking up the best young talent from the Championship, sometimes at Forest's expense. Now we're in a position where we can really use the Championship to our advantage and pick up some really good players who are on their way up and developing in their careers.
Yeah, and it's been like it for a number of years now, where we have actually given that opportunity to younger players and they've thrived at Forest. And you look at the players what have like left in recent years, like Brennan Johnson, etc. So yeah, it goes to show that Forest are willing to give younger players the chance to flourish at Forest, and also we've got that like bit of stability now where we're looking up rather than looking down. We've had that 2 seasons where we've been on the periphery of the relegation battle and everything, and how we started this season, it is a good prospect. You think, well, Forest are doing well. They've got young players in there. They're playing a certain way. You can, if you look at how we're playing at the moment, we have got an identity and a purpose of how we want to play. And I think now, obviously, we know all the stories, and from that like first summer where we signed all them players, things are settling down nicely now. You can actually see a plan blossoming. Like Murillo, we know he's potentially not going to be here in a year time, but if we bought him for 13 million, and we're going to get a hell of a lot more money for that. Same with Alanga. Or was it 15 million? On the last day of the deadline day, it was like Newcastle put a 50 million bid in, and obviously it was a bit too late in the window for Forest to accept and get a adequate replacement. But we have actually got players there where we're giving them the opportunity, and Forest know they're not going to lose out because they're playing, they're performing well. So it's all about knowing where your position in the food chain is, and I think they've looked at the Brighton model and think it's worked for them. They've got into Europe a few times and still may remain competitive in the Premier League. And so I've got no problem. I've said this for a long time now. I've got no problem as far as selling players. It's just how you replace them adequately. And in the 90s and the noughties, we never did that. We tried to we got the money in, but then we bought on the cheap. And hence what happened, we fell away from the Premier League into the Championship, then ultimately into League One, because we just didn't progress as a football club. But now we want to stay in the Premier League. We've got aspirations for Europe, and we're buying these young players and selling them for a profit. So it's win-win in every aspect for the club at the moment.
It is, yeah. And it's one area that the club seems to be doing really well is getting money in for players at an optimum time and getting good money in for players as well. Let's move on to our final story then, and it's a lovely one. It's that the City Ground hosted Vicky McClure's Our Dementia Choir at half-time of the Newcastle match on Sunday. The choir sang live on the pitch to thousands of Forest fans in the stands. The club have already developed a close relationship with Our Dementia Choir, offering them the opportunity to practice at the City Ground. And this good relationship continues. They've now performed on the pitch, and it's really nice to see, isn't it, Tom? This is a story which is close to many of our hearts. So many people have relatives who are living with dementia, and it's nice to see that Forest are giving this choir a platform and an opportunity to grow and become more well known.
Yeah, it's a brilliant gesture, and Vicky McClure's put a lot of hard work and time into bringing it off the ground, and obviously where the Dementia Choir is at the moment. And it's a nice gesture from the club to let them practice, etc. So, and it was a nice on at the weekend, wasn't it, when they sung at half time? So yeah, and music's a really good tool for people who are suffering from dementia. And we've had close family who's unfortunately had dementia over the years, and yeah, it's a horrible illness, and obviously you've got to put a lot of help and assist them, because obviously they can't do it for themselves anymore. So yeah, it is a horrible disease, and hopefully raising more awareness and etc. Hopefully there'll be a cure in the not too distant future. So yeah, it's a nice gesture, but yeah, and I think it's nice from the club what they've done and giving them the platform to perform in front of thousands, like you say.
So that brings us to an end to this week's Friday 5. We will leave it there. My thanks to Jamie Martin for providing the news stories. Thanks to Tom as well. And thank you to you, listener, for joining us. We will be back in your feeds early next week with our monthly Forest Ramble pod. So make sure you don't miss that one. We'll have match reports as well when Forest return to action after the international break, and of course Friday 5 and women's shows to come. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win, breakaway, pick six, three-point shot, underdog win, buzzer beater, shootout, walk-off, and absolutely every play in between is amazing. From football to basketball and hockey to baseball, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Virginia.